You wake up every morning standing at the edge of two worlds, one built by chaos, the other by choice. Most people don't even realize how close they are to either. The first thought that hits your mind when you open your eyes isn't just a thought. It's a command. It sets the rhythm of your emotions, your focus, your energy. You can wake up saying, not again, or you can wake up saying, let's go, I own this day. That single mental shift is the line between existing and truly living. See, your brain is a magnet. It attracts whatever emotion you feed it first. A single positive thought doesn't just change how you feel, it rewires how you act, how you speak, and how you show up. The moment you take control of that one thought, you take control of your entire day. And when you repeat that habit day after day, you take control of your entire life. So don't underestimate the power of one small intentional spark in the morning, because one spark ignites motion and motion changes everything. Your first thought in the morning is not just a flicker of awareness, it's the command center of your destiny. The instant your eyes open, your mind begins scanning for meaning, direction, and identity. That single moment sets off a chain reaction that determines the energy you carry, the way you treat people, and even how the world responds to you. Most people think the day starts when they step out of bed, but it actually begins with the very first whisper of your thoughts. If that whisper is filled with doubt, hesitation, or resentment, your day becomes a reflection of that. But when that whisper is driven by purpose, gratitude, and strength, you become unstoppable. Men and women may process emotions differently, but both are wired for one truth: focus determines feeling. A man often wakes up thinking about responsibility, pressure, or performance. A woman may wake up with her mind already multitasking, caring, planning, balancing everyone's needs, including her own. But beneath both is the same power, the ability to direct that first thought. When you decide that your first thought is, I am ready, instead of I am tired, your physiology changes, your breath deepens, your muscles engage, your mind sharpens. That's not motivation, it's rewiring. It's taking command of your emotional GPS before the world grabs the wheel. Every morning, your brain gives you a split-second window before habits take over. It's in that window that transformation happens. The body follows the mind, and the mind follows focus. If your first focus is on problems, your energy drains before you even begin. If your focus is on possibility, your energy multiplies. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. The chemicals your brain releases after a positive thought create momentum that shapes your behavior throughout the day. That's why a single thought of gratitude can shift frustration into clarity, and a single thought of determination can turn fear into courage. You have to understand that life doesn't respond to who you are. It responds to how you think. Men who wake up feeling defeated often carry that into every decision they make, from their business to their relationships. Women who start their day overwhelmed often give to everyone else but themselves and end up running on empty. But when either chooses to begin with power instead of pressure, the whole world bends differently around them. A new level of confidence, calm, and connection emerges. Because it's not the situation that changes, it's the state you bring into it. The truth is, your first thought is your declaration of identity. It's you telling yourself who you are before the world does. And every day, that declaration builds a pattern, one that either imprisons you or frees you. So when you wake up tomorrow, pause before you reach for your phone, before you check your messages, before you let the noise in. Ask yourself, what's my first thought going to be today? Because that choice, that simple moment of awareness, can turn ordinary days into extraordinary ones. Every transformation begins with a shift in state. When your body, your breath, your posture, and your focus change, your entire internal story rewrites itself. Most people try to change their lives by thinking harder, but thought alone isn't enough. You must change the energy behind it. The body is the gateway to the mind. The moment you move differently, breathe deeper, or speak with more certainty, your emotional state follows. You can't stand tall and feel defeated at the same time. You can't smile with purpose and stay stuck in fear. The physiology of power creates the psychology of strength. Men and women both live inside stories they've repeated so often they forget they wrote them. A man might tell himself he's not good enough to succeed, or that pressure is just part of being a provider. A woman might carry the silent weight of perfection, believing she has to be strong for everyone else while ignoring her own voice. But every one of those stories was born from a state, fatigue, frustration, or fear. The beauty is that when you change the state, the story no longer fits. Suddenly what felt impossible becomes possible because your energy no longer supports limitation. Your emotions are not permanent, they're patterns. And those patterns are triggered by what you focus on and how you use your body. You can interrupt any emotional loop in seconds by shifting your state. A deep breath, a power stance, a quick burst of movement, a new word you say out loud, all of it tells your nervous system, we're not staying here. You don't have to wait for motivation to strike. You create it through action. The story of defeat dissolves when the state of victory takes its place. Think about it. Every great breakthrough you've ever had didn't come when you were sitting still in self-doubt. It came when something inside you shifted, when you decided enough was enough, when your state became one of absolute certainty. That's when clarity rushes in, creativity unlocks, and courage replaces hesitation. Men who learn to command their state lead with confidence, not control. Women who master their state lead with grace and power instead of burnout and self-doubt. The difference isn't in willpower, it's in physiology. Your story is never written in stone. It's written in the language of your emotions. When you rise in the morning and feel the weight of yesterday pressing on your chest, you have two choices: repeat the same emotional state and relive the same story, or shift your energy and write a new one. The moment you move your body with purpose, speak your intention out loud, and take one bold step forward, you change the narrative instantly. Because the story of your life isn't determined by what happens to you. It's determined by the state you choose to live in. Where you direct your focus is where your life expands. Every ounce of your energy, emotion, and strength flows toward the things you give attention to. If you focus on fear, your life fills with hesitation. If you focus on opportunity, your life fills with momentum. Most people spend their days reacting instead of directing. They wake up and instantly surrender their focus to messages, problems, and noise. But the truth is, focus is the steering wheel of the mind. Wherever you aim it, your emotional energy follows, and that becomes your reality. Focus is the ultimate amplifier of emotion. Men and women both experience this truth differently, but equally powerfully. A man who fixates on what's not working in his career feels pressure multiply, while a woman who dwells on what she can't control feels her energy drain before the day even begins. Yet when that same focus shifts to what they can control, to what they're grateful for, to what excites them, the entire emotional state transforms. Nothing in the world changes except attention, yet everything feels different. Because what you focus on and what you feel, you become. Most people don't have an energy problem. They have a focus problem. The mind is like a lens. If you aim it toward limitations, everything looks smaller, darker, and heavier. Aim it toward possibility, and suddenly your vision expands. Your brain begins scanning for solutions instead of obstacles. You start noticing opportunities you used to overlook. That's not luck, it's neuroscience. The human brain is designed to filter out billions of pieces of information every second, showing you only what matches your focus. When you decide to focus on power instead of pain, your entire system reorganizes itself to support the decision. Focus determines emotion, and emotion determines action. A man who focuses on how he's already failed will hesitate before trying again, but one who focuses on what he's learned will find strength in his next step. A woman who focuses on the chaos around her will feel consumed by it, but one who focuses on the peace within her will move through the same chaos with calm authority. The difference between exhaustion and empowerment is often just a shift in focus. Every thought you hold long enough becomes a seed of energy that either fuels or drains your future. The power of focus is that it doesn't just change your feelings, it reshapes your identity. When you choose to focus on your purpose instead of your problems, you awaken a level of passion and resilience that has been waiting beneath the surface. When your focus lives in the present moment, your energy becomes unstoppable. The body aligns, the emotions stabilize, and clarity returns. Because the truth is, your energy doesn't disappear, it simply follows your focus. And the moment you reclaim that focus, you reclaim your day, your direction, and your destiny. Every decision you make, every action you take, every risk you embrace or avoid is driven by one invisible force, emotion. Logic might guide the map, but emotion is the engine that moves the vehicle forward. People love to say they'll act when they feel ready, but the truth is emotion is what creates readiness. Without emotion, there's no drive, no movement, no spark. Emotion gives life to intention, and intention without emotion is just a quiet wish. If you want to change your life, you must learn to master the fuel that powers it. The difference between those who talk about change and those who create it isn't intelligence, it's emotional intensity. A man can know exactly what he needs to do, but stay paralyzed because his emotion is fear, not purpose. A woman can have every reason to take a leap, but hold back because her emotion is doubt, not certainty. The emotion you live in determines the world you see. When your emotional state is low, your vision narrows. When your emotional state is high, your possibilities expand. That's why one person sees obstacles while another sees opportunity. They're not living different lives, they're living different emotions. Emotions are energy in motion, and the body is their stage. When you change your posture, your breathing, your tone, you shift the emotional energy inside you. A slumped body creates hesitation. A powerful stance creates confidence. It's not fake, it's training. You can train your body to feel powerful even before your mind believes it. That's how transformation begins, by using your physiology to awaken the emotions that drive greatness. When you move with intention, speak with conviction, and act with purpose, your body and mind align to create unstoppable momentum. Men and women experience emotion differently, yet both are fueled by its intensity. Men often suppress emotion. Believing control means strength, but buried emotion becomes pressure that eventually breaks. When a man learns to channel emotion, anger into drive, fear into focus, pain into purpose, he becomes a force of creation rather than reaction. Women, on the other hand, often feel deeply, which can be both power and burden. Their emotion connects them to empathy, intuition, and resilience, but when misdirected, it can turn inward as exhaustion or self-doubt. When women learn to harness emotion as a source of strength rather than something to manage, they rise with unshakable confidence. Every emotion has a message. Fear says, prepare. Anger says, sadness says, let go. Love says, grow. The key isn't to avoid emotion, it's to use it. When you label emotion as good or bad, you lose control of it. But when you see it as information, you can redirect it. That's how high performers operate. They don't suppress their feelings, they steer them. They know that emotion, once focus, becomes fuel. It becomes the unstoppable force that drives creation, leadership, and connection. What moves you isn't the goal itself, it's the emotion behind it. People don't want money. They want the emotion. They think money will give them freedom, peace, excitement. People don't chase relationships. They chase the emotion of love, connection, belonging. Every action you take is your attempt to feel something. The secret is to generate those emotions before you achieve the result. When you learn to feel grateful before success, you attract it faster. When you feel powerful before the challenge, you conquer it easier. Emotion sets the vibration that action follows. The moment you elevate your emotion, your action changes automatically. No one procrastinates when they're filled with passion, courage, or certainty. It's not that they found motivation, it's that they created emotion strong enough to destroy hesitation. That's how people break habits, take risks, build dreams, and lead others. They turn emotion into movement. Because emotion is not a weakness, it's the strongest force in the human experience. It's the fire that ignites purpose, the heartbeat of progress, and the ultimate fuel that transforms thought into reality. Every day you wake up, the world is waiting to train your mind. It comes in the form of notifications, opinions, headlines, pressure, and noise. If you don't take command of your thoughts from the moment you open your eyes, the world will decide what you think, how you feel, and who you become. The truth is, life doesn't just happen to you. It happens through you. But that only works in your favor when your mind is prepared. When you train your mind before the world trains it for you, you become the designer of your day instead of a product of your environment. Your mind is a battlefield between intention and reaction. Most people live in reaction mode, allowing every message, conversation, or piece of news to trigger their emotions. They wake up strong but get hijacked before breakfast. A man might scroll through social media and instantly compare his progress to someone else's highlight reel. A woman might wake up feeling grateful, but one message, one problem, one demand pulls her into anxiety or overwhelm. That's the trap of an untrained mind. It absorbs everything without filtering what deserves attention. When you train your mind, you build the filter. You decide what enters, what stays, and what gets dismissed. That is mental discipline in its purest form. Training your mind begins with awareness. You must become conscious of what thoughts dominate your mornings, what stories repeat in your head, and what emotions you let linger. Your first thoughts are not harmless. They are the architects of your focus. If your mind wakes up thinking, I'm tired, I'm behind, or I can't, you're already programming defeat into your day. But when your first thought is, I'm ready, I'm capable, I'm in control, your body follows. You stand taller, breathe deeper, and act differently. The power isn't in the words, it's in the decision to start your day from strength rather than survival. Men are often taught to be tough, but not trained to be mentally aware. They push, they grind, they perform, but few stop to condition their mindset. That's why many achieve success yet feel empty. They mastered the outer game and ignored the inner one. A man who learns to train his mind becomes more than strong. He becomes unshakable. He no longer reacts to chaos. He creates clarity inside it. He doesn't seek validation. He commands direction. That's not arrogance. It's mental mastery. When a man takes ownership of his mental conditioning, he no longer lets circumstance dictate his confidence. Women, on the other hand, are often pulled in multiple directions emotionally and mentally. Their empathy and intuition are superpowers, but without training, those strengths can turn into overwhelm. When a woman learns to train her mind, she no longer carries everyone's energy as her own. She creates boundaries between her thoughts and the world's expectations. She becomes calm in the storm, powerful in the silence, grounded in her vision. A trained mind allows her to give from overflow instead of depletion. She leads with grace not because she feels no pressure, but because she controls how pressure affects her. Training your mind isn't about ignoring negativity. It's about transforming it. Challenges will come. People will criticize. The world will keep shouting for your attention. But when your mind is trained, you interpret events differently. A setback becomes feedback. A rejection becomes redirection. A delay becomes preparation. That's the power of mental conditioning. It doesn't remove problems, it redefines their meaning. And when you change the meaning, you change your experience. The process starts small but compounds fast. Begin your day with intentional rituals, movement, gratitude, visualization, silence. Don't let the first voices you hear belong to the world. Let them belong to you. Feed your mind before the world feeds it for you. Read something that strengthens your vision. Speak something that builds belief. Focus on something that fuels purpose. Because every input becomes an influence, and every influence shapes identity. The stronger your mental conditioning, the less control the world has over your emotional state. Your mind is your most powerful weapon or your most dangerous enemy. Left untrained, it will believe every fear, every doubt, every limitation you've been told. But trained, it becomes the ultimate force of creation. It filters out the noise, amplifies your focus, and aligns your emotions with your mission. The world doesn't slow down, and it doesn't get quieter. You just get stronger. You become the calm in the chaos, the creator in the confusion, and the master of your own mental universe. Because when you train your mind before the world trains it for you, you stop reacting to life and start designing it on your terms. Change doesn't demand an earthquake. It begins with a single internal shift. One thought, one choice, one decision, made with total commitment, can alter the entire direction of your life. Most people wait for some massive event to spark transformation, but real change rarely starts loud. It begins quietly in the mind, in the heart, in a moment when you decide, enough. That small shift in focus, in belief, in behavior might not look powerful at first, but it's the seed of a transformed future. Every extraordinary story of success, healing, or growth began with one simple choice made differently. The difference between staying stuck and stepping forward often comes down to the smallest adjustment in perspective. A man who feels trapped in routine might believe he needs to rebuild his entire life to feel alive again. A woman overwhelmed by responsibility might think freedom only comes when everything around her changes. But in truth, neither needs a complete overhaul. They just need a shift in direction. A man who changes his focus from pressure to purpose suddenly finds strength where he felt exhaustion. A woman who shifts from perfection to progress finds peace in movement instead of waiting for the ideal. The external world doesn't change first, the internal one does. Your life is a mirror of your patterns, and every pattern can be rewritten with a single shift in decision making. When you change one daily habit, your morning routine, the way you respond to stress, the words you say to yourself, you begin to rewire your identity. A man who wakes up each day saying, I have to, lives in obligation. But when he wakes up saying, I get to, he lives in gratitude. A woman who looks at her reflection and sees flaws continues a cycle of criticism. But when she looks at herself and says, I'm growing, she activates self-compassion and strength. That one emotional shift shapes how she eats, how she works, how she connects. The human brain loves comfort, even if comfort means misery. That's why most people resist small changes. They underestimate their power. But the mind is like a compass. 1 degree off today might seem insignificant, yet over time, it leads to a completely different destination. A man who decides to read 10 minutes a day instead of scrolling social media doesn't just gain knowledge, he gains momentum. A woman who decides to take 5 deep breaths before reacting to stress doesn't just calm herself, she rewires her nervous system for strength. These micro shifts compound, creating new patterns of emotion, focus, and behavior. Transformation doesn't happen because life becomes easier. It happens because you become more intentional. One shift in your energy changes how you approach every situation. When you stop waiting for motivation and start acting from discipline. You create momentum that emotion cannot control. A man who shifts from blame to responsibility immediately reclaims his power. A woman who shifts from fear to faith instantly opens doors that anxiety had closed. Both become architects of their own experience instead of prisoners of their circumstances. The moment you take control of one small decision, the universe begins to move in your favor. Every shift begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. That's why reflection is powerful. It exposes the hidden patterns that keep you repeating the same days. A man might realize that his frustration isn't from work, but from not honoring his own needs. A woman might see that her exhaustion isn't from doing too much, but from not prioritizing what matters most. That moment of awareness is a pivot point. Because when you see the truth clearly, you can choose differently. Awareness creates choice, and choice creates transformation. One shift in belief can rewrite your entire identity. If you believe you're stuck, you act stuck. If you believe you're capable, you act capable. A man who once believed he wasn't good enough begins to walk taller when he shifts the belief to, I am becoming. A woman who believed she had to do everything alone starts to attract support the moment she shifts to, I am worthy of help. The world doesn't respond to your intentions. It responds to your state of belief. The shift must happen inside before anything changes outside. The truth is, transformation is not a single event. It's a ripple effect. You shift your mindset, your emotions follow. You shift your emotions, your actions align. You shift your actions, your results evolve. Each small step creates momentum that compounds into massive change. A single moment of courage today can become the foundation for confidence tomorrow. A single act of gratitude can become the habit of happiness. A single choice to move forward can redefine your entire identity. Because one shift today, just one, has the power to transform everything about who you become tomorrow.